Okay, let me show an example where we used array modifier beautifully. Here is an animation that we made for Professor Kana M. Sureshan lab at ISET Trivandrum. So this I did almost 5 years ago. So let me play the animation so that you can see what is happening. Here you can see a polymer. Here you can see a ether molecule which will approach this polymer and form a bond. Yes. So you can see this polymer looks very neat and interesting. How can we make something like this? If you have the monomer, if you have the 3D structure of the molecule, you can create an array of that molecule to form the polymer. Here you can see the project file of that animation. So if I go back, you can see what is happening. If I switch to render preview mode, you can see that in render preview mode. So in this case, we are interested in this polymer, right? Here you can see it is a polymer. If you look closely, it is a 3D structure of a molecule that you can see, that is the monomer.
Alright, what is an array modifier? As the name suggests, it will help you create an array of an object. Now we have a cube here. Let me go to modifier properties here, click on this drop down menu. The first modifier here under generate, you can see array. So all these 4 categories are for different purposes. You can see a set of modifiers under modify. You can see a set of modifiers under generate and deform and physics. So let's have a look at array modifier. Click array. Now we can see the array modifier settings here, and also our cube got bigger. That is because we have 2 cubes here overlapping with each other. So increase this factor x value so that you can increase the gap between 2 cubes. Here you can see count, that is for increase the number of objects in the array, like that. Now we have an array along x-axis. Why? Because factor y and factor z values here are 0. So if I change factor x value to 0, all objects are located at same place at origin. That's why we are not seeing the array. Change the value of y from 0 to 1. Now you have an array along y-axis. Change the value more than 1, 1.5. Now you can see there is a gap. So now if you increase z value, you can see that it is getting displaced along z-axis. If you change y value to 0, it will strictly follow z direction like that. If you add all 3 values, you can see that accordingly change the direction of the array as you want. So more the number, more will be the gap between the objects in that particular direction. So now I'll change y to 0, z to 0, x to 2. Now if you go to edit mode, press tab and make any changes on this object, it will be replicated on entire array, right? So go to edit mode, switch to face select mode and select this face and extrude this region. You can see that it is getting replicated on entire array like that. Now let me go back, press Ctrl Z for undo. Now what I'll do, add one more array modifier on top of this. Go to modifiers and click array. Now you can see one more array here, which is basically array of first array. So the settings for that will be here. So change the values to change the direction. Change factor x to 0, change factor y to 2. Now you can see we have first array here. When we added second array, it is creating array of first array along y-axis because we have x equal to 0, y equal to 2, z equal to 0. You can increase the count. It will increase the number like that. Now you can create a 3 by 3 grid if you add one more array on top of this, which will create array of this array, right? So let's do that. Click here, choose array and go down. Change factor x from 1 to 0. Change factor z from 0 to 2. Now you can see we have new array of first array, which is basically array of different array. So we have 3 arrays. If you increase the number of the third array, you can increase the height. Now if you want to change the number of units in any specific direction, you can change all the 3 values separately like this for z. The second array is for y. The first array is for x. like that. This same method you can use for creating a crystal lattice. Now let's try to create a polymer chain. Press Shift A, Mesh, UV sphere, create an array, go to Modifier properties, click on Array. Increase the number like that. Now this is one-dimensional array. Can we make it curvy, like a chain? For that we need a curve, right? Press Shift A, go to curve and add Bezier curve. And increase the scale, press S, and we have a curve like this. And move the array here like that. And add one more modifier on top of this called curve. Click on this drop down menu and add curve. Now you can see the curve modifier appeared here. It is asking which is curve object. So click on this drop down menu and click on our curve object here. Now you can see that the array is getting distributed along our curve. Move this in this direction. Click on this x-axis. Now you can see that we have our curve here. Our array is being distributed along that curve. Now if you select this curve and go to edit mode and make any change to that curve, it will be affected to the entire array. Let me select this vertex point and move this up like that. Now you can see that your entire array is following along that. So this is a beautiful way of creating polymer chain. Let me extrude this point. Press E. Now I have one more point here which is connecting to the previous point. Now basically the length of the array got increased. Now if you select this array and increase the count, it will follow the curve object like that. Now you have a polymer chain, something like this. This single unit could be your monomer of your polymer, like that. And how can we create a circular array? For that, let me add a cylinder, Shift A, Mesh, Cylinder, and add an array modifier. First of all, we need to move this object to some location like this and right click, set origin to 3D cursor. We want the origin of this object to be here at the origin of the field. You can see these three axes. If you right click, go to set origin and choose origin to 3D cursor, the origin simply shifted to the center here. Now we can create a circular array around this origin. Add an array modifier like that and activate object offset. Why? Which will make sense now. Expand that menu which is asking which object to be used to offset this array. For that we will add one more object which is called empty object. Shift A, empty, you can see plane axis. This is our empty object which is basically empty, which has only an axis. So using which we will rotate the array so that we will create a circular array. Select this array, increase the number of the array like that. Select this eyedropper tool and click on this empty object. Now before making the rotation, we have to make sure that all factor values are 0. Now you can see factor x equal to 1. That's why it is moving along x-axis. We will change that to 0. Now you can see all objects are at same location. Now select your empty object and press RZ and rotate along z-axis. Now you can see your array is getting rotated along z-axis around your empty object. Now you can increase the number of units by going to array properties like this, and you have a circular array. How beautiful is that? Now if you want to make any changes to this circular array, you can simply select this empty object and move so that it will make some changes. Let me show that. If you move along z-axis, you can see that entire array is also moving along that axis accordingly. And now if you increase the number of the units, you can create a helix. How cool is that? Boom. So many times these kind of structures will be needed. For example, in supramolecular chemistry, where molecules are arranged like this, you can create a DNA molecule using the same method. In that case, you need to go to edit mode and move the object. You can see that accordingly array also getting changed. Now we have something similar to DNA. Change the scale down like that. So instead of the cylinder, if you have this base unit with phosphate group, you can create the entire DNA molecule. Now if you rotate it in other direction along y-axis, RY, you can see that the entire array is getting rotated in very interesting fashion. RX, let me do that. So the illustration that you are seeing here was created using the same method. If you want to know details of that, you can have a look at this tutorial. The link also will be given in the description. So that is the beauty of array modifier. So basically, as the name suggests, you will be able to create array of an object. So if you add any modifier on top of this, it will be replicated on entire array. Let me try with wireframe modifier here. So basically it will create wireframe of the object. We have added wireframe modifier on this object, which is being replicated on entire array. If you increase the thickness here, you can see it clearly. So now you got the idea. You can create an array. If you want any changes, you can add one modifier after other. In the next video, we'll have a look at a different modifier. See you in the next tutorial.